things, but underneath all of that is the Bible. I am unapologetically 100% in favor of is the Bible. Jesus is the Word. There is no delineation. If the Bible says it, that's what Jesus is, and that's what Jesus believes. That's what this podcast is actually about, is to actually alert people to what is coming and what is our responsibility in the midst of it.
Hello and welcome to the Tom Laipply Podcast. I will be your host again. Welcome to night 2 of the producer Aaron takeover. So last night was a little bit on the negative kind of side, I would say. I mean, some people really liked it, but you know, it was a little bit more negative. But again, we got to be realistic about where we're at. So I wanted to just kind of give you my thoughts on all of that. But tonight is going to actually be the opposite. And the reason being is it's Friday. I got to start your weekend off with the good vibes. You know, it's the first day of spring. Only negative for today, I would say, a bummer, is we lost Chuck Norris, guys. He died today.
Oh, an American. It's the last one.
I know. I know. It's like when Tom Brady retired. It's like, man, do I even watch football anymore, you know? It's like Aaron Rodgers probably not going to play again, you know. It's like, man, is football?
He's coming back again. He's got one more year.
I mean, yeah, but is it going to be like a good, normal kind of Aaron Rodgers thing, or?
I don't know. Ask Tommy.
Tommy's in it.
He's the guy.
Tommy,
Karate chops.
what are you thinking?
Karate chops will never be the same again.
I know. Again, it's like we're losing out on some Americana here. But we're going to start the show off with some good stuff, some positive stuff. Our first video tonight is a video from Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, talking about people who were basically kicked out of the military under the Biden administration, because they refused to take the COVID vaccine. Go ahead and play it for me.
Today, in this video, as we said we would, I want to update you on our efforts to reinstate those service members who were unjustly forced out of the military during the COVID-19 panic. While I'm proud of our efforts over the past year, our obligations to make things right are not yet complete. I'm therefore extending the application of the department's reinstatement and return to service guidance established last April. The revised guidance will now apply to former service members, our warriors of conscience, who wish to return to service through April 1st of 2027. So we're extending this to make sure anybody that wants to take advantage of it has additional time to take advantage of it. Maybe you were waiting to see whether we meant it or not. We do. We hope you'll take a look. To further encourage the return of experienced and dedicated service members, effective immediately, the active service obligation for individuals returning to service under this guidance is now reduced from 4 years to 2 years. And this change reflects our confidence that returning members will make an immediate and positive impact, and aligns our reinstatement policy with the needs of both the service members and the military services. Maybe for some 4 years felt like too much, given what had been done to them. We hope too entices warriors of conscience to come back. This modification will be incorporated into all future reinstatement agreements. And this policy change also applies to those service members who have already been reinstated and committed to a 4-year service obligation. So it's across the board. And given this policy modification, and to ensure that everyone whose career was cut short under the COVID-19 vaccine mandate receives the respect they deserve, I direct the secretaries of the military departments, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, within 60 days, to once again recontact those who have not rejoined already and inform them of this new information and this new opportunity. We are working hard every single day. It's our commitment to you to right the wrongs and correct the injustices of the Biden administration.
I'm pro that. That's awesome. Again, like, the fact that they were let go is just retarded. And you want those kind of people serving in your military because they're actually good, moral Americans that stand for something. And if they were willing to lose their job in the military for not taking the vaccine, then they're going to be the good guys. They're going to be the guys that you want on the front line, fighting the enemy, etc. The only negative kind of thing, and before the show, Tommy and I were actually talking about this on the phone. The only negative thing I could draw from this, though, is because I've got to balance it out. It is good overall. Again, going from 4 years to 2 years, for example, great. That's a great idea because, again, you have people who were, taken out of the military. They basically had to quit, or they were removed from the military. It wasn't even quitting. It was like forced quit. They were discharged is the word I was looking for, from the military because they wouldn't take the COVID vaccine. Well, I mean, do they really want to sign up for another 4-year term? No, probably not. I mean, some might just re-enlist after their 2 years is up, but they have the option to only do 2. But here's where it could be negative, though. Are we trying to get those people back because it's the right thing to do, or are we trying to get those people back because we might need them in Iran? That's the question. Hopefully, it's just because it's the right thing to do, because obviously it is the right thing to do regardless. But I'm hoping that the reason isn't because of Iran. We just got, again, I said this last night, but 2,500 Marines are being sent over to Iran. We basically did that in Iraq. We did that in Vietnam, where it was like a slow drip kind of until it was like sending, 100,000 people over. So I'm hoping that it doesn't get to that point. Again, you can be black-pilled when it comes to politicians. You can be black-pilled in terms of like people are going to lie to you, people are going to cheat and steal and, et cetera. But you don't have to be black-pilled completely. You can still have hope in certain things. I don't put my hope in any person. Like I don't put my hope in Pete Hegseth. I don't put my hope in Donald Trump. The only person that I have hope in is Jesus. But I can still hope for the best that, again, we're not going to be sending those guys that do re-enlist over to fight in Iran. But it is a possibility. So I just had to put that out there. But again, good job. Good job, Donald Trump. Good job, Pete Hegseth. That's a great thing. I'm for that. Again, like I said last night, I'm for what they did at the southern border. So there are things that I strongly disagree with Donald Trump on, and there are things that I agree with him on, and this is one of them. The next video I have is from Peter St. Onge. It's a little bit longer, but it's great information about how the jobs market is going so far. So another good thing for Donald Trump. Play for me.
Job openings jumped 400,000 last month, which has annualized 5 million new jobs yearning for a worker. So much for the collapsing job market CNN promised. It was the largest increase since 2024, and it's odd since just last month the BLS reported a catastrophic drop of 92,000 jobs. So what is going on? Last week, the notorious Bureau of Labor Statistics released their so-called JOLTS numbers, job openings and labor turnover, which tallies the number of job openings along with hires, quits, and layoffs. Hires rose a smidge, about 20,000, calling into question BLS's previous estimate of 92,000 lost. Meanwhile, layoffs actually fell, according to the BLS, by 35,000. So much for the AI jobs Armageddon that is going to buy us the UBI. The all-important quit rate actually rose. This is good because if more people quit their jobs, it means they think jobs are easy to find. You get worried when nobody's quitting. Now, interestingly, quit rates are highest in blue-collar jobs like construction and trades, and they're worst in high-pay, white-collar jobs. I've been warning all year this is what AI is doing. It's helping blue-collars, and it's gutting the cubicle jobs. And then the big one from JOLTS, job openings, which rose 400,000 on the month to nearly 7 million unfilled jobs in the country. Breaking it down by sector, one of the biggest was finance and insurance, which surged 170,000 openings on the month. They almost doubled openings. This is weird since finance is supposed to be ground zero for AI replacing jobs along with entry-level tech. But there's a simple explanation. Financial stress creates finance jobs. People to restructure loans, analyze credit risk, handle bankruptcies and defaults, figure out which hedge fund just vaporized on a dog-powered coin. And the poster child for that stress is the $1.8 trillion shadow banking system, private credit, that has apparently gone wild with risk and is now announcing defaults and lock-ins nearly daily. Lock-in is where you can't take your money out of the fund. It's not yet 2008 level, but it is looking ominous, and it's apparently splendid for financial hiring. The next biggest jump was retail, trade, and transportation. Openings jumped 130,000 in retail alone. The reason here is the tariffs, which ran down inventories in 2025. They were dodging the tariffs, and now companies have to restock. Then the third big jump, leisure and hospitality. This actually never recovered from COVID. Openings are still down nearly 500,000 from 2019. So it's been slogging back month by month. And it matters because it is enormous. So restaurants alone employ 12 million Americans. It's larger than manufacturing. And it's also a safety net job. Whatever happens, you can always bartend. Moreover, these jobs are immune to AI. It'll be a while before AI can clean your hotel room or serve that drink. Now, it wasn't all rosy. The biggest drop in openings was professional and business services cubicle jobs. These collapsed by 200,000 on the month. They're down 300,000 on 2026. This is ground zero for AI, which is replacing consultants, marketing, and corporate services, along with tech contractors, H-1Bs. So as Sachs brought to you by I Trust Capital, the main risk to jobs this year is the war, specifically oil prices. But zooming out, American jobs are splitting in two, with white collars hurting, but blue collars cashing in. This will drive a tsunami of AI doom porn, since it's those white-collar journalists, professors, and analysts who write the doom porn. We'll see how long the war goes, but for now, we are growing jobs faster than Americans can fill them. Okay?
All right, so that's good news. Again, like, it's not all negative news. Now, again, like, I've got to kind of balance it out, is the economy is actually doing better than the Bureau of Labor Statistics said, because it said that we lost jobs, but we actually hired more people. We have more people in blue-collar jobs quitting their jobs because the likelihood of them being able to find another job is high. Obviously, white-collar jobs being down, I mean, that's not great, but it does make sense because a lot of white-collar jobs are being replaced with AI. I mean, I'm in the tech field, so coders, anything that has to do with computers, a lot of that can be done by AI. I mean, you look at graphic designers, people that would get paid a lot of money to make graphics and stuff. You can basically go on to Canva and all these other things and have AI create it for you. You can have Grok create an image for you if you need it for whatever it happens to be. So it does make sense that that's going to happen. And like Peter St. Onge said, okay, well, AI is not going to be able to be a brick mason. Like it's not going to be able to, structure a house, at least for a long time. So those jobs are safe. White collar jobs, maybe not so much. But again, that's good information. That's good stuff. I like that. That's pro-Trump. But here's the thing is, if we were focusing more on that and less on a war with Iran, then those numbers could be higher. But if we're focused on something overseas that literally has nothing to do with us, okay, well, then who knows how long that will last? I don't know. But again, that's good information. So I wanted to just make tonight a little bit more positive. I'm going to call, a spade a spade. If it's bad, I'm going to call it bad. If it's good, I'm going to call it good. That's a good thing. So I wanted to just open the show with a little bit of a lighter touch this evening, again, because it's Friday night. Want you guys to get into the weekend with a good, positive show. The next two videos that I've got is basically it's Rand Paul talking to Markwayne Mullin, who is essentially replacing Kristi Noem. Well, he's nominated to replace Kristi Noem as the head of the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. Now, whether he makes it through his nomination process, if he gets voted in by the Senate, that all has to happen. But the first step is that the president nominates somebody to fill that position. And not a fan. Not a fan of Markwayne Mullin. Again, there's a lot that has to do with him and his background, and I'm not going to deep dive on it tonight, but not a fan. So I do, obviously that would be against Donald Trump because he's the one who nominated him. I feel like a lot of times with Donald Trump. I was talking to Brent about this before the show started. Because of Donald Trump's personality, again, you have to just be realistic with who we're dealing with here. And because of his personality, you have him not necessarily knowing somebody really well, but he'll say that he does. He'll say, they're great, all this kind of stuff. You've heard it before. He's the best guy for the job. He's great. His family's great. Love him. I've known him for a while. And he may exaggerate or lie about that to get somebody in to really kind of like push his base on accepting that person. And then if that person gets fired or quits, then he'll deny. He'll be like, well, I didn't know him that well, and he wasn't that great. And same thing that he did with Joe Kent. He was singing his praises when he nominated him. Then when he resigns, he goes, well, I didn't really know him that well. I thought he was a nice guy, but he was soft on security. But Mr. President, you nominated him to run your counterterrorism department.
Right.
Like that's on you. So you got to take the blame sometimes. Same thing with Mark Wayne Mullen. Not a fan. He needs to pick somebody better than that. Hopefully he doesn't get through. The likelihood of him getting through, though, is very high. But anyways, the first video that we're going to play is from Bannon's War Room, Steve Bannon, and it's a video of Rand Paul confronting Mark Wayne about some of the things that he said about him and to him, and then the next video after that is his response. And this is going to tie into the next section of the show because what we're going to cover mainly tonight is fraud. The Minnesota fraud. We've got new stuff from Nick Shirley on California fraud. And we actually have something here local, a Florida man committing fraud during COVID, which we've talked about a lot on the show, the kind of fraud that was taking place with COVID. So we're gonna cover all that. But Rand Paul actually calls out Mark Wayne for not backing him on a fraud bill that he wanted to do. Again, this video is a little bit longer, but hopefully it's entertaining for you and interesting for you. Go ahead and play that for me.
Just moments ago, we're going to play a clip that was so explosive that Fox News cut away. Let's go ahead and play this. Senator Rand Paul about Senator Mark Wayne Mullen.
Good morning, everyone. I entered the Senate the same year that Representative Gabby Giffords was shot. I knew then that the state of political rhetoric was encouraging violence. I think it's imperative now, more than ever, that the leaders in our country disavow violence and lead by example. Through the years, I've personally been exposed multiple times to political violence. I was in the right field batting cage when the crazed shooter unleashed nearly 200 shots at our congressional baseball practice. I'll never forget Steve Scalise valiantly trying to drag his body away as the gunman continued. Later that year, a Trump-hating felon attacked me from behind in my yard. I was just straightening up from picking up a tree limb. I was wearing noise cancellation headphones, never saw him coming, running pell-mell down the hill. I was struck in the back. The force of the blow sent us through the air nearly 10 feet, down the hill until his shoulder impaled me as we hit the ground. 6 of my ribs were broken. 3 of the ribs were completely separated, such that for weeks, the ends of the ribs would grind upon each other. My lung was damaged. For weeks, I could inhale but not have the rib strength to exhale. I developed 2 pneumonias. The pain was such that I could only sit up in bed by tying a rope to the foot of the bed and pulling myself up. But even then, the pain was that of 1,000 knives. Over the year of recovery, I began to cough up blood. I underwent removal of part of my lung. Complications led to an infection in the space between my lung and chest wall. I spent a week in the hospital having the infection lavaged every 6 hours through a chest tube. Recently, Senator Mullen, if you have time to listen, you were confronted by constituents that were angry because you voted against my amendment to stop all funding for refugee welfare programs. Instead of explaining your vote to continue these welfare programs for refugees, you decided to transfer the blame. You told the media that I was a freaking snake and that you completely understood why I had been assaulted. I was shocked that you would justify and celebrate this violent assault that caused me so much pain and my family so much pain. I just wonder if someone who applauds violence against their political opponents is the right person to lead an agency that has struggled to accept limits to the proper use of force. You might argue you were mad and upset about being confronted by your constituents. But Senator Mullen, your constituents are justifiably upset with you. By now, most of America knows that the Somali welfare fraud in Minnesota stole over $9 billion. But instead of defending your vote, you took to continue the vote to continue these refugee welfare programs. You chose to lash out at me. You went on to brag that you'd already told me to my face that you completely understood and approved of the assault. Well, that's a lie. You got a chance today. You can either continue to lie or you can correct the record. You have never had the courage to look me in the eye and tell me that the assault was justified. So today you'll have your chance. Today, I'll give you that chance to clear the record. Tell it to my face. If that's what you believe, tell it to me today. Tell the world why you believe I deserve to be assaulted from behind, have 6 ribs broken, and a damaged lung. Tell me to my face why you think I deserved it. And while you're at it, explain to the American public why they should trust a man with anger issues to set the proper example for ICE and Border Patrol agents. Explain to the American public how a man who has no regrets about brawling in a Senate committee can set a proper example for over 250,000 men and women who work at the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah, good question, Rand. Again, that just shows you the character of Mark Wayne. He literally goes up to Rand Paul, who, again, I'm not always pro Rand Paul. I think he does a lot of good things. I think, like Thomas Massie, he's in the upper 90% of voting conservative on every bill that's brought before the Senate. Thomas Massie in the House, Rand Paul in the Senate. And so to be anti either of those guys, you're not being a real conservative. You just don't like them because they've gone against Trump. And I'm not that kind of guy. I stand on principles. And if you back the same principles that I do over 90% of the time, okay, I'm going to stand with you. I may disagree with you on certain things. Rand Paul was against the tariffs. Okay, I disagree. I know why he was doing it. Again, if you're to look at like what I said last night about how senators are supposed to represent the state, not the people. Well, the state of Kentucky makes a lot of their money selling Kentucky bourbon to Canada. So he was against the tariffs because that would hurt the bottom line of the state of Kentucky. Technically, he as a senator is actually doing the right thing. Do I agree with him voting against them? No, I don't agree with him. But he is at least looking out for the interests of his state. Now, is it because it's the right thing to do? Or is it because he was being paid money by the whiskey lobby, the bourbon lobby? I don't know. I haven't seen information that says that he was, but I haven't seen any information saying that he wasn't. So again, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. You got to look at things through the proper lens of like, these are human beings. What is their job? Are they doing it? And again, if you agree with somebody 90% of the time, they're on your side. And Mark Wayne goes up to Rand and says, essentially, like, I understand why that guy, that crazy liberal neighbor of yours, attacked you, smashed you off of your lawnmower, rolled down the hill with you, broke 6 of your ribs, and made it to where you got pneumonia twice and couldn't even breathe. I understand that guy. Okay, why would we put that kind of person in charge of DHS? Like, do you guys have anything? I mean...
I don't know much on this guy, this Mark Wayne.
But I mean, just the concept, though.
Yeah.
Like, why would you put that guy in charge of such a huge department in America? Like...
Yeah, what's the experience?
Yeah,
what's
and I mean, again, like, his character is terrible. Like, if you're going up to a super conservative Republican and being like, yeah, I understand why the liberal, like, beat the crap out of you. Like, you're not on the same side. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So we've got this next video. Again, this is Mark Wayne responding to Rand Paul. And listen to what he says. Go ahead and play that for me.
Chairman made, calling me a liar. Sir, I think everybody in this room knows that I'm very blunt and direct to the point, and if I have something to say, I'll say it directly to your face. If you recall, back in my House days, we actually did have this conversation because of remarks that I've made. You were in a room. I simply addressed that I said I could understand because of the behavior you were having, that I could understand why the neighbor did what he did. As far as my terms, the snake in the grass, sir, I work around this room to try to fix problems. I've worked with many people in this room. Seems like you fight Republicans more than you work with us. I did address those remarks. I did explain your gimmicks by the amendment you put forth. And as far as me saying that I invoke violence, I don't. I don't think anybody should be hit by surprise. I don't like that. But if I do have something to say, everybody in this room knows I'll come straight to you. I'll say it publicly and I'll say it privately, but I'll never say it behind your back. So for you to say, I'm a liar, sir, that's not accurate. And I got proof to say that because you have spent millions of dollars in my campaigns against me because we just don't get along. However, sir, that doesn't keep me at all from doing my job. I can have different opinions with everybody in this room, but as Secretary of Homeland, I'll be protecting everybody, including Kentucky, as much as I will my own backyard in Oklahoma. It's bigger than the partisan bickering that we have. It's bigger than the political differences we have. The truth is, I have a job to do, and I don't like to fail at anything at all. So I can set it aside if you're willing to set it aside. Let me earn your respect. Let me earn.
Again, it's easy for somebody to say that when they're sitting in front of the Senate to get confirmed for a specific position that they really want. They really want to be a part of Trump's cabinet. It's going to look really good on their resume. It's really easy for somebody to say, you know, in that position, like, oh, I'm willing to set it aside if you are. Okay, but again, that doesn't show you that that person has good character because it's a show, it's an act. And now, on the flip side of that, I'll say about Rand. Rand, are you going to vote against his nomination because you don't like him? Because obviously he doesn't like you. So are you going to vote against that because you guys don't like each other? Or are you going to vote against him because he's not a good candidate? He's not a good pick. I don't think he's a good pick. I don't think he's a good candidate. But again, what's the motive behind this? What's the reasoning behind this? I've used this example before. You have manslaughter and you have murder. Okay, the end result is the same. Somebody died. But there's an intent in murder versus the intent with manslaughter. Manslaughter is like, you know, you were doing something, you were driving reckless. I mean, I don't even think reckless driving would count for manslaughter necessarily because
like,
murder 3 or something.
Yeah, there's like, it's just like levels.
Right,
you know,
but
like
manslaughter, though, is like an accidental death, though. It's
Yeah.
not like you intended to kill somebody, but again, you killed somebody. Whereas like murder is like you either planned it out or it was like the heat of the moment, whatever it happens to be, but you actually like murdered them. It was not an accident. Okay, well, it's the same thing with this. Like, what's the intent behind Rand? Is it, I don't want to vote for you because I don't like you, or I don't want to vote for you because you're a bad candidate? Again, if he says no on the vote to nominate him, okay, it could be no for both of those, but like, guys, let's like put aside the stupid pettiness. And I'm not even saying petty, like put aside our petty differences with Democrats. Okay, again, we're not going to agree with Democrats. You're never going to agree with them because they're freaking insane. Okay, they want to cut off and mutilate children. They want to cut off their body parts. They want to abort kids, and they call it health care. They don't call it murder. There's all these different things. You're not going to agree with those people. But if you're a real conservative, I'm not even going to use the word Republican because it's so tainted by rhinos like Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham. But if you're actually a conservative and you're an America First conservative, can we like put aside the stupidity? And speaking of which, I want to actually that leads me into this. I want to talk about from last night. I saw some comments from last night where people were saying that what I was saying was anti-Semitic and all this different stuff. And I just want to say, first of all, it's not. You probably don't know what anti-Semitic means. And I'm just going to give you a quick little education on that. Anti-Semitic means that you're against somebody who is Semitic. Semitic comes from Shemitic. Shem in the Bible was a descendant of Noah, and all of his descendants are Semitic, right? Most of the people in Israel today are not Semitic. They're Eastern European, they're Polish, like Benjamin Netanyahu. His real name is Benjamin Malachowski. Okay, they're not even Semitic. Benjamin Netanyahu is white, okay? He is Jewish not by his DNA, not by his people group, not by his race, no, he practices Judaism. There's a difference between the religion and the group of people. So please just educate yourself a little bit if you're going to, denigrate me or denigrate Tom or anything like that. Like, just look up your facts before you say anything, because it makes you look foolish. And unfortunately, people will see those comments and actually be like, oh man, I guess maybe it was a little anti-Semitic. I am not anti any person other than those who wish to do America harm. Again, if the country of the Philippines decides to undercut and underhand the United States the way that Israel does, okay, I would be anti-Philippines. I don't care about your background. I don't care even about your religion. There are Muslims who voted for Trump. Okay, I'm against Islam. I'm against Judaism. But if you're a conservative, then I'm good with you. If you're not going to try to like kill me or attack me or stop me from being able to have the freedom to speak or practice my religion, then I have no problems with you. If we're both America first and we're kind of like fighting towards the same goal, if you're actually dedicated to the country that you live in, which is America, and you don't put the country of origin before America, whether it be Israel, whether it be an Islamic country, whatever it happens to be, okay, then we're on the same side. We can be friends. Again, we might disagree on some things, but overall, we're probably going to agree with each other. And that's the same thing with Mark Wayne and Rand Paul. It's like, put aside the nonsense. There's going to be people that you're not going to like, but you got to work with them. It is what it is. I mean, I'm sure, Brent, with you like working in police stuff, I'm sure that there's been plenty of people that you...
There's always that one.
Yeah, of course.
There's always one.
Every job.
Yes.
Every job.
Doesn't matter where you go.
No. And again, that's the same thing with me. It's like I've had many different jobs, mainly in tech. And man, there's some, especially, you got some, and no offense, baby boomers, but you got some older like boomers that have been in tech for a long time. Okay, they haven't learned new tech. They learned all the old stuff, and they still think that they know more than you. And it's like, okay, well, with technology specifically, if you don't keep up with it, you're like, you don't know anything, because it changes like every week, essentially. And it's like you always got that one guy that thinks he knows better than you, or thinks that he is better at his job than you are, or whatever. Okay, you're going to have to just learn to like work with these people and get over it and not hold random little grudges. So anyways, that's the first part of the show. Hegseth, again, I agree with bringing those people back. Peter St. Onge talking about how the economy is doing better with jobs. Great stuff. Mark Wayne, not so great. Rand Paul, again, what he said, I agree with what he said, but hopefully it's for the right reasons. So all that being said, we're going to move into the fraud section of the show. I'm going to start off, I don't have any clips for this, but I actually just printed this out from Grok because I just thought this was a really interesting story. And this, again, is another win. And it's here in Florida, so it makes my heart happy. On a Friday, this was between March 17th and 19th, depending on what articles. Some of them were off, so it's weird. But could have been yesterday that this actually went through. Florida man stripped of citizenship because of a $3.8 million COVID fraud scheme. This person was from Haiti. His name is, and this is a weird name, Joff Sten Roy Philissant. He's Haitian-born, and we don't know his age. He's between 25 and 36 because he lied on his forms to become a citizen. So we don't even know how old this guy is. But again, he's from Haiti, and this happened in Fort Lauderdale. Here's the details of it. He was convicted in PPP EIDL fraud, again, payment protection program that was during COVID. That was so that basically your employees weren't working because you were social distancing and masking and all this stupid stuff, but you were getting a PPP loan from the government to be able to pay your employees since you weren't making money because you were closed down. Well, he took out 40 fake loan applications, reported false revenue and payroll. He got $3.8 million total, and he pocketed personally $550,000 via kickbacks and loans. He lied on his naturalization forms to enter the country and become a naturalized citizen. He concealed crimes ongoing in 2020 and 2021. His citizenship was granted February 2021 under, guess who? Joseph Robinette Biden. Well, that's been revoked now by Judge Rodney Smith in the Southern District of Florida. Again, Florida win. Good job. He faces deportation to Haiti post-prison. So this is great. I love this. I wish, though, that we would just deport him now, because then we don't have to pay for him. Taxpayer dollars doesn't have to go towards his prison stint for 4+ years. But after he gets out of prison, it should be immediate deportation. That essentially, he has a deportation order on him. Again, whether or not that's followed, it depends on who's in the Oval Office and what's going on with that. But hopefully, he gets deported after he gets out of prison. So I love that, because here's the thing is, you don't hear that a lot. You don't hear often of people who commit fraud or anything like that. Like, you look at Ilhan Omar, okay? She lied to become a naturalized citizen. She's committed fraud. She's still a congresswoman. She's still representing people in Minnesota, works in Congress, hasn't been denaturalized, hasn't gone to prison. Okay, so again, we got to celebrate the wins when we can get them, and good job, Florida, because we got that done. So that's awesome. And then the next two that I'm going to go over, again, this is just all fraud. We've got the Florida fraud. That's a good thing. Then we've got a newest video from Nick Shirley, and if you don't follow him on X and YouTube. I would follow if you had to pick one, I'd follow him on X, because the thing is that there are multiple people like Nick Shirley who make videos like this and are getting their accounts banned left and right on YouTube. YouTube is a better platform, I will admit, but if you want to stay up with the latest from Nick Shirley and all of his findings, follow him on X. But this next video that we've got is Nick Shirley went to California. He did the same thing in Minnesota, and because of that, more fraud was exposed than pretty much anything. I mean, I haven't heard of anything besides when he went there to expose this fraud, of any fraud cases being brought. Tim Walz acts like, well, we didn't know, it was just an oversight, and sorry, it's been going on for years, but he didn't know anything. So, my bad. And then a young guy, I think he's younger than me, goes over with a GoPro and starts knocking on doors and looking into these different healthcare facilities and whatever, and seeing what kind of fraud is being done and conducted in these areas and stuff. And after he does that, okay, now we're going to start bringing lawsuits. Now we're going to start bringing charges. Now we're going to start putting people in jail. Why does it take Nick Shirley going around recording stuff to get anything done? I don't understand it, but he did, and he decided to go to California under Gavin Newsom and see what kind of fraud was going on there. Play it for me.
Fraud is now front and center for the Trump administration. The president signing an executive order this week, launching the task force to eliminate fraud led by Vice President J.D. Vance. Its goal, combat fraud, waste, and abuse in federal benefit programs. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris joins us. And California is a big target, Jeff, for the administration when it comes to potential fraud, with officials already digging in. Break down the details.
So Dr. Oz, who leads the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, is currently investigating hospice and also home health care fraud in the state of California, alleging millions are being stolen in L.A. County. But he's not alone here. Independent journalist Nick Shirley also launching his own probe, claiming in a brand new video to have found $170 million in fraud. On Monday, President Trump signing an executive order to establish the task force to eliminate fraud, saying every state will be held accountable.
It seems that it's usually in blue states. If it's in a red state, we're going there too. But it seems that it's heavily Democrat.
Led by Vice President J.D. Vance, the task force aiming to coordinate a government-wide strategy to do two things.
Stop the fraud in the American taxpayer and make sure that the benefits that ought by right go to American citizens and not to fraudsters.
One state the administration is already circling is California. Dr. Oz, who leads the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, claiming earlier this year a preliminary audit found billions in federal Medicaid funds were allegedly misspent by the state on health care for undocumented immigrants.
In California alone, we already have $1.3 billion that they're actually paying us back on because they know they're ripping off the federal taxpayer.
And just last week, Oz also responding to a CBS News examination of federal data that found over 700 of the roughly 1,800 hospices in Los Angeles County trigger multiple red flags for fraud as defined by the state.
To take half the hospices in California, the ones that are illegitimate, based on the criteria we've been discussing today, and take away their ability to bill us.
But state officials telling CBS it's far from true that California is not engaging in good faith with the federal government. Newsom saying in January the state is taking a proactive approach.
2021, we did a moratorium on new hospice program. 280 we shuttered. We've been after this for years and years and years.
Meanwhile, independent journalist Nick Shirley also switching gears from Minnesota to California.
This is the sound of hospice money.
Shirley posting this video on social media, claiming to have uncovered over $170 million in fraud in the state's hospice and daycare systems.
The last few visits from the state have said that they have 39 enrolled.
And right now we're seeing about 5 children.
Sinclair's Full Measure also recently sitting down with multiple whistleblowers in Minnesota, one of whom worked within the state's Department of Human Services. She says prior to the recent widespread alleged fraud, she faced retaliation after refusing to approve problematic contracts that totaled over $1 million in taxpayer dollars.
You were immediately targeted and you were the bad employee. And from that point on, there was nothing you could do.
Now, the new fraud task force put together by the White House does include senior officials from multiple different departments like Treasury and Health and Human Services. Officials must also meet deadlines. For example, within the first 30 days, each agency must identify the programs most susceptible to fraud and suggest preventative measures. Reporting for the National News Desk, I'm Jeff Harris.
Again, great news. That's awesome for Trump. He literally made a fraud task force. I will be interested to see how much they get done. But again, you have to be positive where it's positive, negative where it's negative, and that's a good thing. I'm all for this. This lines up with Doge, and I really wish Thomas said it before, but like, man, it was so good when Elon was working with Trump, and we were cutting all this fraud, and then the Congress craps the bed and only codifies cutting like a small portion of it. So stupid. It's so dumb. But if we can do the same kind of thing that Elon was doing with Doge with this fraud task force, again, this is going to be led by J.D. Vance. So hopefully this is not like the border czar situation with Kamala, where she crapped the bed and she was put in charge of the border, did nothing, let all these people in, and then after it was a flop and a failure, and she's running for president. Oh, I was never not the COVID. That's don't get me started there. Easy. But I'm not the border czar. That was never appointed to be the border czar. But yeah, we've played on this podcast so many videos of liberals saying that she is the border czar. CNN, MSNBC, CNBC, all these different liberal stations saying that she was. So, again, good news. Pro-Trump. I know a lot of people, well, I wouldn't even say a lot of people, but some people were mad that I was attacking Trump. And again, like, I'm just going to call balls and strikes. I'm going to call a spade a spade. It is what it is. If you fail at one part of your job and you fail at being America first, then I'm going to call you on it. If you succeed at it, then I'm going to call that. I'm going to say that you succeeded. I hope that we succeed with this. I hope that we can eliminate all this fraud. If you don't watch the Nick Shirley video on the California fraud, it's about 40 minutes long. So if you're bored tomorrow, you don't have anything going on, you should watch that video. It's really wild, the different places he goes to. It showed a clip of him talking to a guy at this. It was like an abandoned motel, and it was 2 stories tall. It probably had, I don't know, maybe 50, 60 rooms, something like that. And every single one of those rooms was turned into a hospice center, all under different names. So they're all different businesses, but it looks like they're all run by the same people. Nick Shirley started going up to people that were trying to leave the parking lot because they saw him walking around with a camera. And listen, these people already know who he is because of what he did in Minnesota. So they see this guy coming. from like a mile away, and they're like, run, get in our BMWs and take off. There was a guy in a Maybach. There was a guy in an M6 BMW. Like, these are expensive cars, and they all are running these hospice centers. But when he goes to knock on the doors of all these different places, because there is essentially a list that was released by the government saying these are all the hospice centers, these are all the daycares that are all funded by taxpayer funds. And so it says their name, their address, and how much they were given. So all Nick Shirley is doing is he's just going to these places and actually seeing if they're legit. And there was like 20 or 30 in this abandoned, like weird, I mean, it's just a dirty, weird old motel. And he's going up to these doors and knocking. And some of them, most of them had like their blinds closed, but some of them, you know, the old school verticals, and they're like broken, and you can kind of see inside. He like looks inside, and there's no furniture. There's no people in there. But on the door, it says, you know, Angels of you know, California Hospice Center. And there's nobody there. He knocks on a bunch of different doors, and then he knocks on a certain door, and this guy comes out that's like a mafioso, and he's like, basically like saying, you know, get out of here and stop recording. You can't, you know, be here and all this stuff. And Nick is just like, bro, it's public property. I can record. It's good luck with that. But again, he just calculated just the couple that he went to in the video, and it was $170 million of possible fraud. He has this huge list that you can't go to all of them if you're one person. But out of the ones that he went to that all look like abandoned places, it was hospices and daycares. And sure enough, he also said, by the way, that he's not trying to like target Somali daycares or Somali-run hospices. But weirdly enough, every time he would go to like a daycare, and specifically daycares, the hospices were basically empty, but he would go to these daycares, and Somali men would open the door, you know, tell him to F off and get out of here and all this different stuff. And there were no kids there, but they were all Somali. And he's like, wait, I'm not trying to target Somalis, but for whatever reason, there's just as many Somalis running daycares in California that are committing fraud as there were in Minneapolis. What the heck is going on with that? So again, I applaud Nick Shirley majorly for trying to uncover this. And listen, if that's something, if you're like a guy that doesn't have a full-time job, or you want to do this on the side or whatever, find these resources and go do it yourself. Start exposing stuff, because that's the only thing. Apparently, that's the only way stuff is going to get fixed. So this other video is just Nick Shirley talking on Fox News about the fraud that he was uncovering in California. Go ahead and play it.
We asked, and so did you, we asked the governor of California, we asked questions like this. Does the governor see any need to ramp up oversight for daycare receiving Medi-Cal funds? You previously mentioned California's ban on new hospices. Is the state doing anything to crack down on existing hospice businesses that may be engaging in alleged fraud? Does Nick Shirley's video showing empty office suites appearing to operate as hospice concern Governor Newsom? And we get the same thing you get, Nick, which is memes, right? They dress you up in cameras and they say bad things about you, like you're the enemy. The governor should be thinking, you know what, we want to bring Nick Shirley onto our team so that we can get to the bottom of all this stuff.
Yes, the governor of California is an enemy to the people of California. He's literally working to support the fraudsters. Meanwhile, he could be working to expose the fraud. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to say, okay, let's go after the guy who's exposing the fraud. Let's not go after the fraudsters. That is what he's doing, what he's actively doing each and every single day when he makes out these statements, and all he does is blame the people who are showing the fraud. Why doesn't he say, hey, Nick, great video. How can we help?
Right? That's what I would say. Was wow, great video. How did you find this? Where did you go, and where are you going next so we can find somebody to go with you? Don't you think that would be a common response?
Exactly, because these tax dollars don't say right or left on them. They don't say Republican or Democrat.
Right.
Each tax dollar is a dollar for the American people. And when they go in and steal these dollars from us, they're not robbing just the liberal Democrat in California. They're robbing everyone. Yeah. And then the governor gets mad at the person for exposing the fraud. How crazy do you have to be to think with that logic?
Yeah.
Again, like he just made one of the points that I was trying to make yesterday is like, if there's fraud going on, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican or an independent or a libertarian or fill in the blank. Okay, if fraud is occurring, that affects every taxpayer. If you're not paying your taxes, you're going to go to prison. So that doesn't count for you. But I'm talking about normal, hardworking Americans no matter what you believe, no matter what your background is, if you pay taxes in this country, okay, this is all going to fraudulent things. And again, Nick Shirley's hoodie, it was funny because Brent mentioned it. It says, where did my tax dollars go? Yeah. That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
That's what I want to know. Again, because you look at the debt, and we're $39 trillion in debt. And again, anti-Trump, 27% of $39 trillion was spent under Donald Trump. The combination of his first administration and his current administration. Okay, where is all this money going to? Because I haven't seen, whether it's a Democrat or Republican in office, and Democrats love to like raise taxes because they're committing fraud, so they need more money for their fraud. But I haven't seen anything change in terms of like, oh man, my life has gotten so much better. I pay less in taxes, or I get a check, a refund check from Doge, which Trump said he was going to do, $2,000 check, Doge check. Okay, I haven't gotten any of that. But we're spending all this money, and a lot of that obviously now is being spent on the war effort. And again, right next to the 39, where it shows a zero there, 39 trillion, 14 billion. Okay, Pete Hegseth wants 200 billion to be added to that clock for the Iran war. Okay, so all my tax money is going to funding wars that I don't agree with, and Somali daycares and hospices that are obviously front companies, and they're pocketing this money.
I'm wondering if that 200 billion
or
200 billion would go towards like the military guys that they want to bring back.
I don't think so, because it's specifically allocated to the combat operation in Iran. So we have, because obviously when you have huge budgets like the military and all that stuff, you have allocations for resources and funds, and they have an allocation for soldiers, and then they have the allocation for whether it's sending more interceptors over to intercept Iranian missiles, whether it's funding the 2,500 Marines that are going over there. It's got to pay for the gas for the carrier, the aircraft carriers that are going over. He needs $200 billion more to be able to continue this operation. And again, like Nick's hoodie said, where's my tax money gone? $39 trillion. With $39 trillion in debt in the richest country on earth, you'd think that we would, I'm not even saying I agree with these things, by the way, but you'd think that we would all have like free healthcare.
Yeah.
You'd think that we'd all get free college. How about a huge cut towards mortgages for young families? Like, you'd think that we would have something to show for the $39 trillion. But instead, what we have is continuing to go to war and fund fraud and all this different stuff. I'm just sick of it. And if I couldn't go to prison for not paying my taxes, I wouldn't pay my taxes, because they're clearly not going to anything that I voted for. They're not going to anything that I want accomplished in the country. Like, if there was a specific fund, it'd be like if the government did a GoFundMe for building the border wall, and I actually knew that it would go to building the border wall, I'd spend money on that. I personally would put money into that. If I could reallocate my taxes and say, this is how much I owe in taxes, I want all that to go to the border wall, I would totally do that, because I want that done ASAP. If it was to pay for the men and women of law enforcement that are and ICE to get mass deportations actually rolling, okay, I would apportion my money to that. But unfortunately, we don't get to do that. There are some Scandinavian countries actually that I found really interesting that will tell you exactly where all your tax money goes. We don't have that. All we have is a debt clock. So $39 trillion, I don't know where my tax money went.
We got the debt clock that just keeps going up, but we have no idea where any of that's going. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing is like Medicare, Medicaid, all that kind of stuff. Like Medicare for people who are over the age of, I think it's 65, or they moved it to 67, I can't remember. But the likelihood of me being able to see anything from that is like 0.0%. The people like me that are paying into it now are actually paying for people who are retired. So then I'm just hoping that people that are 30, 40 years younger than me will be paying into it when I'm retired. But again, the likelihood of that is 0.0. All right, I've got one last video, and this is to go over the fraud that's happened in Minnesota and continues to happen. But it seems like there are some things happening there. It's just not happening on a big enough scale. Seems to be the story with everything, whether it's deportations, with whatever the case is. But things are happening in Minnesota. So let's look into the Feeding Our Future fraud in Minnesota. Play it for me.
The Feeding Our Future fraud case continues to ripple through federal court, but the list of defendants actually headed to trial is getting smaller. While many involved in the $250 million scheme are now admitting guilt to avoid a trial, one man is digging in his heels. Fox 9's Rob Olsen has the details on the latest courtroom showdown and the guilty pleas that just came down.
Gandhi Yusuf Muhammad declined to comment, leaving federal court in Minneapolis Wednesday, just minutes after a hearing in which he also declined to take a plea deal for his alleged role in the massive Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, even as others indicted along with him are taking the same deal. To date, nearly 80 people have been indicted as part of the Feeding Our Future investigation, totaling $250 million in fraud. 1 year ago, Amy Bach, the Feeding Our Future founder and described by prosecutors as ringleader of the scheme, was found guilty after a 6-week trial. She is still awaiting sentencing. But during her trial and since, plea deals from others accelerated. Last September, the U.S. Attorney's Office announced the milestone of a 56th guilty plea. Gandhi Muhammad, the one who declined a plea deal now, was one of 7 charged as a group 2 years ago. All were set to go on trial together in April, but now he'll be on trial by himself. Because also Wednesday, Muhammad's sister Ikram Muhammad in the beige headscarf and her husband Shakur Abdusalam in the tan jacket both took plea deals, pleading guilty to single counts of wire fraud, admitting in court during their plea hearings to setting up sham meal sites for kids, billing millions for food never served, and laundering money.
And that was Rob Olsen reporting. He's been reporting on the story for a while now. 4 other people charged alongside these defendants are scheduled to plead guilty Friday morning.
Gandhi Muhammad is taking your money, folks. Aren't you glad we won? Aren't you glad we pay taxes? Because Gandhi Muhammad, and again, it's funny because they plead guilty for like 1 count of wire fraud. Okay, it goes way deeper than that. Again, this is why I have a problem with it, because at this point, the scale of this is 79 to 98 people charged for the just for the Feeding Our Future fraud. And they've got 2 to 6 guilty pleas. Okay, there's so much more than that. You think that all those people committed over $300 million in fraud? No, there are so many more people that I'm not saying like violence, but they need to be hunted down. They need to be charged with a crime. And if they're in this country illegally, first of all, that's an immediate deportation. They should have already been deported. But they need to be deported. And the people who are here that are naturalized, okay, well, we've got precedent. The guy from Florida, what's his name? Joff Sten Roy Phillicent. Okay. He got naturalized as a citizen in 2021, and the Florida judge revoked his citizenship because of the fraud that he committed during COVID. Okay, all these people, if they've been naturalized citizens and they committed this fraud, get rid of them, denaturalize them, and deport them immediately. If you did that on the scale that it would take, on the scale that it should be at, okay, you would see the debt clock slow down. Especially, again, another caveat, if we weren't at war with Iran. You would see that debt clock slow down because it's hundreds of millions, it's billions of dollars worth of fraud. And again, we've covered Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Nick Shirley, just in that 40-minute video, over $170 million calculated of fraud, and he didn't go to nearly half, nearly a quarter of the places on the list. It's billions of dollars worth of fraud. And again, we got billions of dollars worth of Doge cuts that, again, have basically been dissolved because Pete Hegseth wants $200 billion for the war. We've gotten $300 billion in tariff revenue. Okay, if you were to take all the revenue that we've gotten from tariffs, you get rid of the IRS, so tariffs replace the IRS. We don't have to pay income tax anymore, which has already been done in America, by the way. Income tax was a new thing around 1913 when everything went to crap. Income tax, the Federal Reserve, you name it. Multiple things, the creation of the FBI, whatever it happens to be. Okay, the country has created or existed far longer without this crap than it has with it. So you can get rid of the IRS and replace it with tariff funds. You can get rid of all these people in mass deportations and see our debt go down. If we're not spending endless amounts of money in endless wars, you'll see that go down. Those are just like, to me, in my mind, again, I could just be a retard, but to me, in my mind, I would say those are actually the easy things. The harder things are like making laws and getting rid of laws and regulations to actually stimulate and promote the economy to grow. That's more difficult, especially because if you look at our laws, there are so many that are so nonsensical and stupid, and there are so many that actually overlap on each other. They make a law that covers this much, and then they make a new law that covers 75% of the other law. Okay, they clearly didn't look up the laws that are already in place. They just are like, oh, you know what? It should be illegal to kill somebody. Let's make a new law about murder. Yeah. Okay, that already exists, guys. If you got rid of all that nonsense, the country would be booming, baby. But again, that's like the harder stuff. The easier stuff is getting rid of the fraud, deporting all these people. Because by the way, again, we've talked about this on the show so many times. How many Somalis are on Medicare or Medicaid? It's like 86% of them. And then 10 years later, 79% are still on it. Okay, so you're paying for their welfare. You're paying for their fraudulent, their scandals of hospice care and daycares and all this stuff. So you're paying them welfare and you're paying them a paycheck for committing fraud. Okay, if you got rid of all that, we would be turning this country around. But unfortunately, it's not really happening. Again, I hope for the best with Donald Trump's thing that he's putting together with J.D. Vance to try to get rid of fraud. I really hope that does well. I do. Because, listen, even if I disagree with Trump on stuff, I always hope for the best because, again, it's in the best interest of the country. If what he's saying is in the best interest of the country, unlike war, then I'm going to root for it. I'm going to be like, heck yeah. Again, if a Democrat was like, yeah, we need to get all this fraud, and again, if they were being honest, and they were like, we need to get rid of this fraud. It wasn't very long ago that Bill Clinton was the president, and he stood up for the State of the Union address and told all of Congress that we need to strengthen our borders and kick illegals out, and everybody stood up and clapped. Okay, it wasn't very long ago, but now, because of Trump derangement syndrome, and again, I'm not somebody who has Trump derangement syndrome. I have Trump realism syndrome. Because of Trump derangement syndrome, now it's bad. Mass deportations is bad because Trump is doing it.
Everybody
but Obama,
sits down. Everybody's sitting
correct.
down. There's
Everybody's
no,
sitting down and not clapping. They'll have somebody that like survived some type of attack or are a military hero, and they're sitting down because
yelling
it's
something
Trump.
Stupid from back there.
Oh yeah, always. Yeah, it's always Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar. These big mouths that again should be denaturalized. So, again, it's pretty short show. I know we had issues with the internet going down here and stuff like that. But again, at this point, we're back up. But if you're watching this the following day, I will have it uploaded, the full show, so that you can rewatch stuff that you missed. Pretty short show. Again, it was pretty light. I'm trying to keep it to where I'm not going into a huge philosophical dive. But I wanted to end it. First day of spring.
It's good.
Friday night. Gonna go out with the boys, maybe work on some cars, take the night off. I wanted it to be a little bit of a lighter note tonight. So anyways, that's it. That's all we got for the show. We don't have any rants, and I think the reason why that is because, again, Rumble crashed out. Yeah, so we're not going to read any rants and stuff. I want to invite you to come to church on Sunday. If you're in this area, if you're near Northport, Florida, come to Foundation Church, 13,000 Tamiami Trail. We start at 10 a.m. Eastern. I lead worship there. You'll see me there. You'll see Pastor Tom start preaching around 11. Again, everything that we talked about tonight, everything that we talked about last night, doesn't mean anything if you don't have God. It doesn't mean anything if you're not filled with the Spirit. You're not going to be able to discern what's right and what's wrong. You're not going to have the moral high ground. You might think that you're a moral person. You know, there's Democrats that think they're moral people, okay? But there's nothing to base it off of. We base our morality, we base our values off of the Word of God, which is Jesus Christ, the one who came. He left heaven. He abandoned heaven to come and die for you and me. And again, you can be a conservative all you want, but at the end of the day, if you don't have Jesus, you're going to be in the same hell that Democrats are in. So all of this is useless. All of this is pointless. We're not even citizens of this earth. We're citizens of heaven first. We're temporarily living in this country. And I love this country. And I want this country to do well. And I want to be able to usher in the kingdom of God while we're still here on this planet. So again, join us Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're not in the area, you can watch us live on Rumble. You can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Black Robe TV, X. We're streaming live on all of those platforms Sunday morning, again, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If I don't see you Sunday morning at 10 a.m., I will see you Monday night, 9 p.m. God bless you.
atmosphere is changing now, for the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. The atmosphere is changing. The Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. Overflow in this place. Fill our hearts with your love. Your love surrounds. can happen now. For the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around that the Spirit of the Lord is here. A miracle can happen now. For the Spirit of the Lord is here. The evidence is all around us that the Spirit of the Lord is
This podcast is all about. We talk about a lot of political things, but underneath all of that is the Bible. I am unapologetically 100% in favor of is the Bible. Jesus is the Word. There is no delineation. If the Bible says it, that's what Jesus is, and that's what Jesus believes. That's what this podcast is actually about, is to actually alert people to what is coming and what is our responsibility in the midst of it.